Alright, welcome to the Dzemael Darkhold. I don't know how to pronounce that, but that's what I think it is. Please watch this video all the way until the end because there's a lot of stuff that is going on in this dungeon that you don't see anywhere else in Final Fantasy XIV. And we're going to start right out of the bat with something very unique, and that's this purple stuff on the ground. This dungeon is broken into three major parts, and this first part has a little, I don't know, gimmick if you want to call it, or just a little mechanic, and that is the purple floor. The purple floor will reduce the amount of damage that you take significantly. As we come around the first corner here, as we follow the all-seeing eye, we are going to pause for just a moment and take a look at what is in front of us. What we see is a glowing circle and a door. What this is trying to do is it's trying to teach you one of the mechanics behind this dungeon, which are these locks and how the locks work. Now, the way that the locks work is when you and your teammates stand in them, this invisible countdown timer will happen, and then the door, or wherever the next part you need to go, will unlock. And the more people that stand in the circle, the faster that timer goes down. Unfortunately, the timer isn't shown anywhere. You just kind of have to know it. But what this is trying to do is it's trying to teach this to you. You can actually ignore this part. You can keep on going right, which is what I'm going to do here in just a moment. But what that does is if you stand in that circle, it's going to open the door in front of you and it's just going to reveal a treasure chest. So you can totally skip that and just move on to the next pull. So moving on to the next pull, we can go ahead and actually chain pull and basically wall to wall this next one. And the reason why is because the purple ground that you just saw is also at the end of the next pull, which is going to be in this room. So what you can do is you can over pull here and you can wall to wall, and then everyone stands on the purple ground and you fight here and no one will die. Basically, you take such reduced damage that you can tank infinite mobs here. It really doesn't matter. And it also has the benefit of having another key right in front of you. You can see that glowing blue circle on the ground. That's the key that we're all supposed to stand in. So take the next pull, bring it over here, fight on the purple ground, and you can over pull and it's just fine. With the fight basically over, we can now begin standing in the middle or on that blue circle. And everyone is supposed to do this. Unfortunately, my party didn't, so the countdown that went off where it said countdown complete took a little bit longer to complete than usual. Also, our white mage disconnected here, so that kind of stinks. But now we will move on to all three of us will now stand on the lock. And I won't edit this out so you can see about how long this takes, but we're all just going to stand here and just wait, and then it will say the countdown completes and the door will open. We are now at the first boss, and we are going to be fighting the all-seeing eye. And you can see in this battle area here for the boss, there is the purple ground. For this boss, you do have to fight him on the purple ground, otherwise he is invulnerable. So as soon as the boss is targetable, go ahead and target him and pull. And then make sure he is on the purple ground so you can all deal damage to him. I know it's a little bit tight. You can see the camera is being a little bit weird, but that's basically what this first part of the fight is. When it comes to mechanics, you have the dread gaze there. You can either dodge it by not standing in the AoE, or you can turn around, do whatever you want to do. These ads will spawn in the fight. Just pick up aggro on them and then go and switch back to the boss. They don't really deal a lot of damage. And I'm sorry, that wasn't dread, or it was called cursed gaze, excuse me. And two more ads have spawned, and we will go ahead and pull those in as well. Again, staying on the purple ground. Now, eventually, the glow of this area will begin to dim, and you'll see it it'll pop up on the screen. It'll also be in the chat box, but that means you can't fight here anymore because you have to fight on the purple ground. Now, I got a little turned around here, but I eventually found it. There it is. So there's the next glowing purple area. We will stand on this ground and pull everything onto the purple ground. Pull it onto the purple ground, Sobi, pull it onto the purple ground. There we go. On the purple ground, now we can deal damage to it. The ads will spawn again. They will come to you automatically, and then you will just pull aggro on them and fight on the purple ground. Fun fact, he casts something called Eyes on Me. Eyes on Me is a song from Final Fantasy VIII. I will save you the trouble, and I won't sing it, but I do like that song a lot. Anyway, we will continue to fight here until the crystal begins to dim, and when it does, hopefully you've done enough DPS where you don't have to go and do this a third time, but unfortunately our party did not do enough damage, and we have to move everything again to the final glowing area. And all you really want to do as the tank is make sure the adds are on you. That's really it. Everyone else can just deal damage to the all-seeing eye, and then you'll eventually bring it down, and that is the first boss fight. So I wanted to go over that in a lot of detail because that's very unique. Most bosses, you just turn around and have it face the outside, but this one, you actually have to move it into certain places. So once you're done with the first boss fight, use the Magitech Transporter, and we will go into one of the worst places in a dungeon in this video game. This area is one of the worst areas in all of Final Fantasy XIV. If you wipe here, don't feel bad. Everyone wipes here at least once. It's probably the most common place to wipe in all dungeons in the entire game. And the reason why is because of this ability that these bone nixes cast. And I'll pause it here and we'll talk a little bit about what's going on. So the reason this is the most common place to wipe in all of Final Fantasy XIV is it's two factors that combine into one, and the fact that they throw this at you when you're in your level is like mid 40s is pretty ridiculous. I really think this should be fixed. But the bone nixes have this AoE ability, and the one that's in the back right now, and I think we're going to take a look at it a little bit closer here in just a moment. It's an AoE knockback ability. So as soon as you get hit by it, you will get knocked back. And the problem is that if you are not positioned correctly, you will get knocked back over the ledge. What is waiting for you below? A ton of adds. Way more than you can handle at this level. So what inevitably happens, and this has happened to me a million times, if it happens to you, it's okay. Don't stress, don't worry about it. It will happen. Is someone will position themselves on the edge. The frog will jump, knock them over. They will trigger all of the adds below, and you will get like this old school EverQuest train to zone sort of thing, and all of these mobs will just come and kill everybody and wipe the entire party. There's a couple of ways to avoid this, and we'll go over those now. So there are 4 different ways that you can prevent this from happening. First way is to just not get hit by the AoE. You see the AoE, get out of it. The second way is to use a knockback canceling effect, such as Arm's Length or Shorecast. The third, see, I'm going to avoid that right now. That's like priority number 1 is get out of that AoE. The third way is to position yourself so if you do get hit by that knockback, you get knocked back into the wall and not over the ledge. Kind of like that. Or you can get knocked backwards. And the fourth way to avoid that is to tank it a little bit closer to that glowing red crystal. This is actually probably a bad example here. I could have tanked this a little bit better, but there's this little sweet spot where you can tank all of those mobs and you won't actually get hit over that ledge that's right there, and I'll point it out here. So the hardest part of the dungeon is now over. We've gone through the purple floor, we've gone through the locks that you have to do, we've gone through this ledge of death. Now the rest of the dungeon is actually pretty easy and pretty straightforward. This little corridor here is pretty simple to navigate. The crystals will show an AoE attack and you can just like run right through it. It doesn't matter. And this next pull is just two. It's just one pack and then the next pack right here at the crystal, and then you're at the next boss. The second boss in the dungeon is mostly tank and spank. Once you enter the boss's dungeon, Howlerd will just come out and start wailing on you, so all you have to do is just pick up aggro. And that's really it. What will happen eventually in this fight is his friends will come and start throwing rocks at you. So therefore enemies appear. There's nothing you can really do about it, but you just have to dodge lots of AoEs. Remember, you're in your mid-40s right now, so the only thing this dungeon is trying to teach you is doing two things at once. You're trying to do your rotation, and you're trying to dodge all of these AoEs. So it's just a basic skill that the game is trying to teach you, and that's all you have to do in this fight. Moving on to the third section of this dungeon, this area is quite annoying. You have two different patrols. You have ranged mobs, you have melee mobs, and you have two keys that you have to do, both of which are within the AoE attack of the crystal. So, the best way to handle this room is to pull the first pack and try the best that you can to bring everything toward the ranged mobs. I know it can be a little bit tough because the ranged mobs don't really move and then they stay around the crystal. It's just really annoying. But keep an eye on the patrol that is there in the back. They will eventually patrol toward you and then they will trigger, so your only job as the tank is to just make sure you pick those up, and you can use an AoE attack to pick them up. And that's really it. That's the only thing you have to do. As you can see, I am trying to bring the melee mobs to the ranged mobs so all of our AoEs will hit, but it doesn't work all the time here. It can be very weird. So, you know, you're not going to die here, probably. Well, you shouldn't. Just tank the mobs, burn them down, and then once they're down, you can move on to the keys. This is a part where you want everybody to kind of stack up together because you should only have to get hit by that once. If everyone stands there, you will only get hit by the shock one time. But as you can see, I am the only person standing here now. Everybody left. And we just have to wait for it to count down, the countdown to finish, which it did, and now we have to go and do it again. If everyone does it, then it goes really fast, and you only have to get hit by that shockwave once, or whatever you want to call it. But again, just stand on the crystal, or I'm sorry, on the glowing blue circle until the lock opens, and once it does, you can go up the ramp and onto the next pull. This is the final pull, and it's all melee mobs. It's very easy. You just pick up aggro on the first two in any way that you want to. I used Provoke plus my ranged attack, and then you can use an AoE ability to pick up aggro on the three skeletons there, and then just tank them right here. Obviously, don't tank them by the crystal because the crystals are constantly exploding, but just tank them here, dodge the AoEs, burn them down, and then you are at the last boss. Make sure that nobody is watching a cutscene before you engage. As you can see, we had a few people that were watching cutscenes there, and especially at these early levels, that does tend to happen. So before you engage, make sure your party is with you. Go ahead and pick up aggro on the boss, turn him around, and begin the fight. This starts out as a tank and spank, but there is a very basic mechanic that you will go through here, and it is a tether mechanic. During the fight, the boss will stop attacking you, and he will tether onto a crystal. Once he does, just go ahead and switch your target from the boss to the crystal and burn the crystal down. Once you do that, you can then switch your target back to the boss. Again, this is a very simple mechanic. All the game is trying to teach you is tethers. Like, hey, look over here, something is happening, and switching your targets. He will also do another ability. It will say is a marked target. We'll take a look here in just a second. Oh yeah, chooses his next victim. All that does is puts a target on you, and then you'll get an AoE around you. Just dodge the AoE, and that's it. So he's going to do it again here. This is the second time. He will tether to the corrupted crystal. You switch to the crystal, kill it, and then switch back to the boss. As you can see, he chose me, and then there's the AoE, and then switch back. He will do this one more time. Here's the final tether. Again, he switches to his target to the corrupted crystal, which is what you need to do as well. That switch is indicated by the purple tether. Burn the crystal down, and then switch back to the boss. At this point, with the three crystals down, the boss will start casting AoEs on the ground. They kind of look like little black holes. Don't stand on them. That's all you have to do. The black holes will stay there. Just don't stand on them, and you are free to tank and spank and burn the boss down. And that is going to do it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. I do appreciate it. I hope you found the video helpful and useful. If you didn't, I'm sorry. I tried my best to be as informative as possible. Maybe there's something else on the channel that you like. Well, that is going to do it for this one. We will see you in the next one. Bye!